the next step. And what I really, really am excited about that is that you have just scratched the surface. It's obvious when you get to these centers that there is so much to be done and and so I just want to thank you for all of this good work. Amazing.
And thank you for visiting them too, Tom. Dr. Asplin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to say thank you as well to the Ed Foundation. And Jennifer, I really appreciate the time that we spend together and the things that you guys are doing to help our students. And I can echo what you're saying. You know, I remember as a high school principal, you guys know what I'm talking about, and having that 450, 470 to 1 counselor ratio, and you look at one of your counselors and say, okay, you are the senior counselor, you need to make sure that all of our seniors have a plan when they leave. And it's almost impossible. You just can't do all that. So, you know, that all the effort that you all have put forth to help our counselors in our schools is tremendous. I really do appreciate that. And Tom, as you were saying, a lot of the people, a lot of folks in the community might not know what the next step is or where to even go with the next step. And I know as an educator, having 2 kids myself and trying to work through the FAFSA, trying to help them figure that out was extremely difficult. And I'm an educator. And so for, you know, any other person trying to figure all that out and work through that, and the fact that you guys help families with that, that's tremendous, and really do appreciate that. I know the community appreciates it as well. And also, by the way, thank you for all your help with the Teacher of the Year. It was a fantastic program, so thank you.
The Education Foundation is funded, well, one of the funding is through the Educate Florida license plate. You can, for $25 a year, get a license plate supporting the Education Foundation, but they also take direct contributions. Are any of your contributions matched on the state level?
They all are matched on the state level, and I love that you're promoting us, so thank you.
Well, I am promoting that. So if you know you want to help, and let me tell you, it's something you've written in your little brochure that you put out. Despite the vast differences in the figures of what the state pays and what we pay and what you contribute, the reality is that when the ticket items such as salary and transportation are paid for, the local school districts find they have very little left to spend on anything extra. Teachers dig into their own pockets to pay for both basic classroom needs and the over-the-above opportunities for their students. School districts may shelve innovative ideas while they focus resources on mandated areas and make those tough decisions when the budget falls short. And that's why I'm promoting that, because you help us. Of course, the referendum helps us, but you help us in so many ways meeting those districts' differences that we have in those classroom grants. And if the public wants to help in that, they can contact the Education Foundation, and their contributions will be matched with the dollar contributions from the state on this program. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all you've done, and thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Could I make one other comment? As we built this relationship with the Education Foundation around college and career readiness, you know, all the schools are invested in it too. All the schools have a portion of funding for the personnel that's in there. Some of the principals have added additional staff in to the centers, and the district has committed, the school board and the district has committed also by construction costs and building these centers too. So it truly is a partnership that we want to continue to strengthen and make sure the outcomes are meeting the needs of all the kids. So I wanted to make sure you all understood that you're also contributing quite a bit of money into those centers also. So thank you.
My husband's been on the board of the circus for several years, and he's been volunteering, tutoring at our schools. But I think I found a new place for him to volunteer at one of these career centers, because I think that's more up his alley. He's retired now, and I know he wants to reach out and help. And this is a way he could do it. So I'm going to have him check out these career centers as soon as he can get in there. But I know right now he's working online, you know, with Zoom with a student. And I would imagine some of your mentors are still working with those students. And you know, I think it's a great program, and more of us need to step up.
Thank you, and thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it very much.
Thank you. And we are still running on time. And we have next on the agenda, Dr. Asplin, the ESE update.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just wanted to give you a quick update regarding our ESE area. And as you know, we've been working on this for a couple of, well, I've been working on it for a couple of months. I know it's something that's been around for a little bit. And last month, or earlier this month, January 7th, I believe it was, I was able to fill you in on where we were with the letter that came from the commissioner and the 5 components that he was asking for us to look into, and the Department of Education was helping us look into that. There are areas in our ESE department that we need to correct. There are areas that we need to continue to analyze and review. And I know that our entire ESE department is on board in making any corrections that need to be made for the best of our students. And we will do that. We will continue to do that. And we'll work closely with the Department of Education through that. I just wanted to, first of all, remind you of the 5 components just quickly that we are looking into as far as creating plans around these. Like I said, in December, the Department of Education sent us the letter outlining these 5 components, and they will be addressed, and we are working on those. Number 1 was a plan for 20 hours of evidence-based professional development related to support for students with cognitive disabilities in regular education classrooms. Number 2 was monthly targeted technical assistance, which included desktop monitoring and participation in virtual or face-to-face monitoring for compliance for 2 years. The DOE would help us with that. Number 3 was quarterly submission of data regarding participation in alternative standards, and we will be sending that to the DOE on a quarterly basis. Number 4, development of parent training programs and supports for families of students with significant cognitive disabilities. We're working on that. And then number 5, upload for the DOE approval for during 3 years' time portions of the district's specific policies and procedures and anything else that they want us to send to them. In the meantime, like I said, our entire team has been working with their team. They have a team of about 13 people, and the time together has been very collaborative, very informative, and as you know, they just came the other day for a visit. So just to give you an idea of where we are as far as our connections with the DOE up to date, we've had 5 phone conferences since December 8th. We had a site review or a site visit in December to review our process and expectations, and both groups were together, and I gave you an update on that last time. And then we had a site visit in January, just actually the other day. We focused on student access points curriculum. The DOE sent their folks here, and they did walkthroughs in the classrooms of 5 of our schools. That was Brentwood, Brookside, Oak Park, Riverview, and Northport. And then they interviewed focus groups with those 5 schools' staff and landing staff. So they interviewed all of the staff. Focus groups with high school students from Northport and Riverview. They did interview students who were in those access point programs. And then there was a parent evening on the 26th. 25 folks signed up for it. There were only 7 who actually participated virtually with the DOE, and they plan to have another focus group since they had some calls from people who couldn't either get on or register or couldn't attend that particular day or evening, so they plan to have another. I plan for them to be here quite a bit and to help us by reviewing what we do here in our district, visiting our schools, talking to our folks, and then providing us with recommendations. For our PD protocol review process, we've had 2 phone conferences held to date for that purpose. Oh, I need the, what's called the PowerPoint. I'm just going through my PowerPoint. We're all following along, but I think yes, the community needs to see that. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So The latest one was a debrief session from our visit, or their visit, on January the 27th. And I will tell you that the debrief was very brief. And normally, when they create a summary of a visit and provide recommendations, it takes 60 days. And so I called them today, and they're working on it. They're trying to get it done for us before 60 days is up. And talked to them on the phone just about pertinent pieces that, you know, we need to be looking at. So first of all, I will tell you, like I said before, it was very positive and collaborative, all of our meetings. I know that a couple of board members, you were involved in those meetings as well. I know I was involved in an hour meeting of questions, and some of our other folks here at the district level. And like I said, out at the schools. One of the items that they have said right off the bat is, we know you have some procedures, but you need to make your procedures readily accessible to anyone or for anyone to reference, including district staff and classroom teachers, which is very true. You know, when you're talking to different folks about different procedures or processes, you might get a little bit different take on that, depending on who you talk to. So we need to make sure that those are readily available. PD protocol review process will support our efforts to provide more targeted PD to regular education teachers.
Professional development.
Yeah, professional development. I'm sorry, PD, professional development. So we're looking at, obviously, professional development. That is number one, and also number 4 in our training pieces as far as the plan that we are creating. Numbers 1 and 4 on those components. We'll continue to collaborate on identifying key support training to our families. We will meet with the DOE staff to complete our training plan using the 6 key practices, which I'll show you on the next page. We are expanding our communication processes for families of seniors to ensure that they have information needed to plan for their child's future. They need to know what this means for their senior once they graduate, when they're in access points. And then when they left us, they said they definitely want to give feedback to Tallahassee that, you know, our teachers love our kids. They try to do the right thing. They're trying to do what's in the best interest of the students. That is all true. And then at the same time, we need to look at our processes and procedures and make sure that we're all following those processes and procedures. These 6 key practices are what we use with training, and we need to use these when we are training. Looking at and using our data very, very well, focusing our goals. We need to have focused goals there, implementing shared practices, make sure we implement them correctly, and monitor and provide feedback. We need to make sure that we are monitoring and providing feedback all the way through across the entire district, and then inquire and learn and start over again as we move forward. When we look at our professional development, we talk about the curriculum team and we talk about the ESE staff. And one thing I want to mention here is, in my past experience, especially when I was deputy superintendent, one of the things I noticed was, you know, our curriculum department was knocking it out of the park, doing a fantastic job, talking to teachers, going out and helping teachers. And our ESE staff was doing the same thing. Our program specialists were out there at the schools, talking to teachers, helping them through. But when you're talking to them in their meetings and you listen to what they're talking to teachers about, sometimes they're not on the same page, or sometimes it's counteractive to what maybe the curriculum team said, or maybe the curriculum team is counteractive to what the ESE team said. And we need to just make sure that we are together and talking to our teachers and our school leaders, and we're all on the same page, and making sure that we're not countering each other. And I think our curriculum team and our ESE team do a good job with that. I know Dr. Kingsley has really been working on making sure that we don't have silos between our curriculum department and our ESE department, bringing them together and making sure our professional development reflects that. And I know she's going to continue to do that as we move forward. The target completion date for a professional development plan is April 16th, according to the DOE. And again, they will be helping us with that. The current PD that's taking place, right now we have quite a bit of PD that's taking place. We aren't going to wait on this. We're going to start to move this forward. But looking at our school psychologists and our social workers, what PD might be needed there, rules and process of identification of students needing alternative curriculum. That is huge. That is huge, and here's why, to me, that is huge. When you look at the criteria in which we need to place students or not into our access points curriculum, it is somewhat vague. It is. When you look at, and I know you've heard it before, when you look at the IQ and it's supposedly a threshold to where a certain IQ, if you have that, you should not be in access points versus be in access points. The criteria shows that that is just one piece. And there are many other pieces associated with that as far as when a student should be or should not be in access points. I've had this discussion with the DOE as well. And I want you to know they're working on this as well from their point of view. And they know that they need to do some things with the criteria that they send out to districts to help the entire state. And I'm not saying this to say that Sarasota is doing everything right and that sort of thing. What I'm saying is that this process is helping us fix our gaps, fix our procedures, but it's also helping the DOE look at their criteria as well to make it as clear as possible for districts in the state. So I think it's going to help many districts as well. So we're looking at that very closely and making sure that our IEP teams understand how to identify students and place them correctly, and make sure that we're doing that the same way across the board. Our ESE liaisons, that transition process from general curriculum to access curriculum and so forth, the ESE liaisons at each school and each IEP team, very, very important, especially when we have transitions. When we move students from elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school, and a student is in the access points curriculum in elementary school, and the liaison from elementary and the liaison from middle school get together for this transition of information about a student, we can't just say, okay, well, the student was access points in elementary, we're just going to just continue and put them in access points in middle school and move on and not look at that. We need to make sure we're providing the support, but we also need to reevaluate and make sure that the student should still be in access points, especially also when you receive a student from another school district. We have to reevaluate those students, because how do we know the other school district did it correctly? How do we know the student is in the right place? So I know I'm getting a little bit too deep here, but I'm just letting you know what we're looking at, what we're trying to move forward with and do the right thing and follow the criteria properly and the law properly. Another one, principals and assistant principals, rules and regulations when transitioning students from general curriculum to modified curriculum. The assistant principals and the principals need the training to understand when a student has a cognitive disability and not before they go into access points or be taken out of access points. The principals and assistant principals have to have a very good understanding of that, because the IEP team at their school is meeting, they're talking, and they're placing, but the administration at the school also needs to understand not only the placement, but also what supports, and make sure that those supports are being given to that student on a daily basis. Parents, what are access points and how is instruction delivered? We need to make sure that our parents completely understand what their students, what program their students are in or not in, and why. Our teachers, training on the administration of FSAA, which is the Florida Standards Alternative Assessment Test, following state guidelines. Teachers need to understand that as well. And then parent university. You know, we have parent universities across our district. It's a great thing. Our parents, it's professional development, basically, and training for our parents in many, many areas. But we need to make sure that we have the access points professional development involved in that parent university to help our parents so that they understand when students go through the process and they graduate, what opportunities or not their students are going to have, because parents approve whether their child goes in access points or not. And we have an IEP team, and IEP team makes that decision, but parents approve whether their student goes in or not. And if they don't, and it is still felt strongly that that student would need that support. I know there are other things like due process that we follow and so on and so forth, but the parents really need to understand this. So when I read all this or talk about all this with everybody here, what I'm trying to say is we understand what we need to do. We also understand that we have gaps. We know that we need to fill those gaps. We know that we have work to do. We are doing that. We're working with the DOE on this. But I want you to know that we are trying to do the best we can every single day as we work with our students. And I know that this team in our school district is amazing. When I talk to them, I know they're trying to do the right thing. Sometimes I think maybe they just don't understand something that they need to understand and they need training on, and that's why maybe something wasn't being done as correctly as it should have been. But I am still digging deep. I've told you that before. I'm still interviewing. I'm still trying to understand everything that is going on in our school district, within our ESC department. But I'll tell you, every time that I have conversations, we have amazing people in this school district, and it's a matter of closing those gaps, training up our people, making sure that we are all on the same page, doing the right thing, and moving forward. And that's what we intend to do. We want to have the best ESC department in the entire state, and that is what we will have. And I know our Department of Education loves working with us. They've said that. And they love a lot of the work that we're doing. They're even going to pass some of that on to other school districts. So we will continue to work collaboratively with them and work toward a fantastic plan as we move forward. So that's pretty much my update for right now. And if you have any other questions, I know we also have Sonia's here in the room. If we have questions for the ESC department, Dr. Kingsley's here as well.
Well, I'll give an update on my discussion that I had with DOE when they were here. They interviewed me as chair, and like you said, they complimented our staff, and everyone found we didn't do it for money. We were doing it for what we thought was the best interest of the child, and so I tried to say, well, what is access points and what puts them in? They said, well, an SLD or an LD, that's specific learning disability or language disability, if they have either one of those, they can't be in it. And I said, well, what if they have both of them? Would that qualify them? And she didn't quite know. And that's where we have the problem. And then I said, well, is it at the best interest of the child to put him into a program where he excels or she excels, where this child excels, but it's lower expectations? Because I understand the access points is a lower, and you're probably not going to get into college with this or a state university. Or, do you then take them out and put them in a program where just because they haven't had the backup, they're going to fail? So is that in the best interest of the child? I don't necessarily think so, but we definitely have to have that change, and to have it, I think when you go from elementary to middle or middle to high, might be too much in 1 year. I would like us to look at it on an annual basis. If this child is in an elementary class and is excelling and is on the National Honor Society, I guess that doesn't start till middle school, well, maybe the teacher ought to review it and say, well, maybe this child doesn't belong here. This child is doing very well here. Maybe they could do it in a regular education class. But I think to do that at the same time, they go from elementary to middle or middle to high, I think may put too much pressure on that child. And we might want to look at it before they transition. But I definitely think that, as you say, when the student comes in, we need to review, was this student supposed to be here? And, and I think maybe on an annual basis, the teachers who work with these kids know how they're doing. And if a teacher thinks that child is doing too well in access, I think that should raise a flag just as much as the flag as a child who is failing all of his classes. I mean, so we need to be looking at that, and I think the best person to know that oftentimes is the teacher that's working with them. But I don't want to wait until they're leaving elementary or middle school. I want to be looking at them on a regular basis so that all of our teachers who work with these kids know what it is.
Just for clarification, there is an annual required individual education plan review for every child. It's
Right, but whether they need to be there or not, and I think making sure that the parents understand what it is. And so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it obviously wasn't an IEP that moved a student from one program to another. It was something else, intervention from the state. So I think we need to, look closer at those when they do them. And I think the whole IEP process needs to be better understood by the parents. And I think that's where that parent university comes in. I think we talked about this, was it last month? The parents need to understand the importance of that and the long-lasting impact of the decisions that are made at the IEP. Because it's a lot of stuff to take in, and they may not be thinking about 5 years, 10 years down the line of what happens. So I think they have a better understanding of what that IEP process is and what their role is in it. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Dr. Asplin, for your update. What I heard in the update was information that I had shared with you and observed, and you identified the transitions. And those were my observations just in my own, I'm not an educator, but just, a layperson walking into schools and asking questions and talking to folks. I also shared with you that I spent a lot of time talking to parents with children who have cognitive learning disabilities. And what I've learned, and I think we've all kind of touched on that, is that it's still a frontier. Everyone's learning about what's the best curriculum and what's necessary. So to the point of where I'm in a role of executive oversight, you've addressed my issues. I love the fact that we're continuing to explore with the Department of State and the Department of Education to make sure that it's an ongoing continuous improvement model. And so I would appreciate that we have these just quick updates that it's moving forward, and even somewhere along the line what we've learned along the way. So thank you.
Ms. Goodwin?
Well, I want to thank you for the update. I'm not the professional here. I'm really in an oversight position, and I'm not going to come up with ideas and details of how to do this. I know it's complicated. I know communication is important. I know recording the communications either orally or in writing and having the parent sign it is sometimes a problem, but it's very important. But I trust our people. I know many of the people in the department. I know what a great job and what hard work this is. So thank you for that. I enjoyed my discussion with the people from DOE. I asked a question, more questions, not in detail and technical questions, but I asked more questions like, is there something we could do to train school board members in a better way on just the basics of this work? Because that's not something that we've often done. So we're going to try to do some work together later in the year with Friday calls with FSBA, for an example, to see if we can't take some of our new board members. We've got a lot of new board members this year and help them with this work. So I just think that, I think we're on the right track. And I think they realize we're on the right track and we'll get there. And so thank you for the update.
Anything else? Well, we're running ahead of schedule. Again, thank you, Dr. Asplin.
Thank you.
And thank you, staff, for working so hard on this. Next, we have the legislative platform, and that was something Bridget wanted to bring up. I don't know, she stepped out for a minute. We'll move on to Ambassador Board training. We need to have that too. her input. The Financial Advisory Committee. Kathy, could you find out where Bridget is? The Financial Board Advisory Committee is down 4 members. Could you tell her she's up? The Financial Advisory Committee is a committee that has been put together that oversees the spending of the referendum dollars, and they also advise us on other budget issues. And they are short several members, and they need a quorum to vote. We've had 4 potential candidates, and we've been given some resumes or some background on the 4 candidates. There is it's a Taylor Tollerton Collins, it says, but what is her name?
Ms. Corcoran, can you come up and help us through this, please? Thank you.
I know all 3 of them.
There's 4 of them.
Where's 4? Is there 4? Am I missing one?
Good afternoon, everyone. So yes, we've found ourselves with 4 vacancies. It was originally 3, and then based upon the results of your hiring for a new school board attorney, we are now up to 4. So the committee has been working for some time now on trying to find what they think would be good candidates for you guys to consider. Of course, you can always consider anyone else that you'd like to have. But they reached out, contacted individuals, and made sure that they would have an interest in serving. So the first individual is Taylor Tollerton Collins, and I'm sure.
Oh, that's her name.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was the name of a group, of a company. Oh, okay.
So she's actually the president of professional benefits. She's
Okay.
also Jim Tollerton's daughter. I think she's Jim's pretty familiar with most of you guys. So she has quite a bit of experience in the benefits arena, which would be very helpful for the committee, I think. The next candidate is Susan Hines, who is a principal with Sable Trust Company. She's also an attorney and has a degree in business. So I think she could provide some great insights to the committee. Another member is Sandra Terry, who I'm sure many of you know is a lifelong Sarasota resident and the former head of the Laurel Civic Association. She's semi-retired, but said she'd be happy to help us, and I think she could bring an entirely different breadth of knowledge and kind of represents the mid to South County area, which would be good. And the last name on that was being brought forward for you guys to consider was Sean Ewens, who is the chair or the executive director of the Healthy Start Coalition in Sarasota County. She's also formerly the executive director of the Literacy Council, so she's done quite a bit of work when it comes to children in the area. So those are the names that the committee had brought forward, and we weren't aware if anyone on the board had some names that they wanted to have brought up for consideration. But, you know, once you have a list, then we'll make sure we put it on the next board agenda for you guys to vote them in as new members, or which some or all, which actually coincides perfectly with, that would be February 16th, and the next Financial Advisory Committee meeting is February 18th.
So hopefully we'll have these to vote on. Could you also give us a list of the current members?
Sure.
Jane?
Well, I know all 4 of these women, and they're all outstanding Sarasota residents. Taylor is a young mother, Jim Tollerton, a good friend to the school district's daughter. Susan Hines is a South County resident. She's the wife of Charles Hines, who's just left the county commission, and She worked with me on the first referendum, I think, when she was having her last baby. She has 3 children who all graduated from Venice High School, and she's a great volunteer and supporter. Sandra Terry, who's like wonderful in the Laurel Civic Association, lives in Laurel, so she's a South County resident as well. And now that she's partially retired from the Civic Association, she has time to do some of these things she'd never take anything on before, so that's delightful. And then Sean Ewens happens to be a daughter of a very dear friend of mine, and she is just doing great things in this community for young mothers and young babies, 0 to 2. And she has a long history, graduated from Riverview High School, and worked in the YMCA family in Birmingham and in Sarasota for a number of years, and then has done work with literacy and, as I say, with Healthy Start Coalition. I can't believe she's been there 7 years. It seems to me that she's only been there a couple of years, but she's a dynamite mother of 2 young children at Bayhaven. So they're all great candidates.
We'll start the discussion on the legislative platform that Bridget wanted to.
So
I wasn't on.
I just wanted to reiterate what Ms. Corcoran said. So this will be on the next board packet for approval on the 16th.
On the 16th.
And there's no objection to the 4 individuals on there. I just kind of wanted to get some consensus. If everyone's good, then we'll prepare the item for your next board meeting.
I think it's a great slate of people coming forward, and I appreciate their offer to help us in these efforts.
Okay, thanks.
Which is something else we need to start thinking about, and that is the referendum, less than a year away. The legislative platform issue that
Talk about it anyway. I know what she wants to do.
Well, I know what she wants to do. We have an issue. Let's take a 2-minute recess. So, here's the thing about Northport. Workshop, and we're on item 8, the master board training. Nope, item 7, I'm sorry. Legislative platform. Bridget?
And thank you, and my members, I apologize for the disruption. The item that I just wanted to, as I brought it before, was as I was reviewing it, on bullet number 4, I had made a change and sent it over to Kathy, and I know you guys have a copy here. Just striking the last phrase, unless the results would improve a school's letter grade. In my mind, I know that COVID's been very difficult. I know it's been a challenging year, but I do think we set our standards high, and so I just don't think that language is necessary in there at all.
If I could give some input on that, I'm on the FSBA Legislative Advocacy Committee, and some of them also said, well, why would we want to, because somebody actually added that, because they said, well, we have a D or an F school, and we think we're turning it around. We want to be able to get out of that category. And so that's why they asked us to put that language in there on the state FSBA, and that's, I think, why we put it here too. But I believe it is, well, it is on the FSBA, is it not?
No, it isn't that I remember,
All
but,
right, well, that was when they were talking about
but we don't
it.
have any F schools here.
I was just gonna-
And
ooh,
so
I was just gonna
I
say
think it's fine with me.
Okay, I mean, simple,
And I'm
simple,
just one
tweak, and
person, yeah.
like I said, I think I had heard that it may have been something at the state level, and certainly heard the exact example that you just gave, but for Sarasota County, that seems to be not something, fortunately, we are faced with, and I just think it puts us in a better posture and is consistent with what our expectations are. So if we could just strike that, that was the only recommendation.
Okay, so this one strikes through everything. That's not what we wanted to do.
No, just that, just.
We just want to strike through the unless the results would improve the school's letter grade. For clarification, Mr. Hardy, since, do we have to, can we just replace the one that's out there, or do we have to make the motion to strike that at the meeting?
I'm sorry, I don't recall. Has the board formally adopted your plan, your policy?
No, we have not adopted it yet.
Okay, so then before you adopt it, you will want to adopt it with the appropriate language, with the part in yellow stricken, and then you can just adopt it as written.
So Kathy, what we need to do is correct the legislative platform that's in there. Just take that language out, and when we will be voting on it on today's agenda at the meeting, is it on today's agenda or is it on the 16th?
It's on today's agenda.
Okay, there will be a period after or school letter grade calculations, and that other language won't be there. And you will check to make sure that that's what we adopt.
Will do.
Okay. The next item is the master board training. We didn't get a chance to discuss it at our retreat, but master board training is something, well, Dr. Brennan?
Yeah, master board training is 22 hours of training. It's over a 2-year period of time. I think it is something that would be very valuable for our board to go through, and I believe we get certified too in that as we go through. Ms. Goodwin, you probably could speak to it better than I as far as what's involved with it, but I think it is something that our board should be involved in.
Well, I would just say that, you know, the cohesiveness that we're hopeful for of our board, it might be helpful to that because it talks about best practices of boardsmanship, and boardsmanship is what it's all about. So I think master board training would be a good thing for us to go through, and I would be in support of that.
Karen?
May I ask the cost of, is there a cost to that?
I don't know.
$4,500 is the total cost.
$4,500 for 22 hours? So what?
Yeah, and that includes travel.
And what was the cost of the retreat? Was there a cost to that?
Well, we had that at our location.
So it was zero?
No.
Right.
Zero cost?
Well, there was some meals provided. I
No,
don't
there
know
was
if we paid
Well,
for that.
I'm talking about for
Karen?
FS, for Florida School Board Association to do the training. Was there a
I'm sorry.
cost?
Yeah, I have to go back and look and see what that is. But the trainer, we have to pay for the trainer too.
That was my
work for us.
question.
Well, the thing about master board training is that everyone has to participate. You can't have 4 members go or 3 members go. All 6 members, it's not just the board, it's the board team along with the superintendent. But in addition to, I think, building team leadership skills, it also educates us on some of the things to dealing with school boards. And we get to choose to some extent which of those modules we would like to see. Like there would be one on budgeting or labor, or there's several different modules that we can choose from.
But it's, Shirley, it's also something that you can take in small bites. You know, we all don't want to take long days, or, you know, I know people that are trying to work in do other things. So it's something that you could break up into smaller segments, which I kind of like, you know,
Yeah,
like
we
3
we
or
can
4
do a
hours.
full day or a half day sessions.
I would be interested in what all of our options are. If the only option is Florida School Board Association, and what are those modules, and where is the commonality, and where each of us brings skills and experience to this board, that we are going to have a end goal that aligns to the strategic plan that we hopefully have relatively in the near future. So it seems like we're potentially putting the cart before the horse, so to say, where we don't have a strategic plan. We're looking at professional development, and again, what are all of our options? How would those modules complement us supporting that plan?
The Florida School Boards Association is the state association for school board members. It's the only one that does the training, I believe. There's some smaller group organizations, but it follows what the state statutes require of school boards, and training on that is what it is. Bridget?
Thank you. Well, and I, for the record, I have no objection with FSBA per se on this aspect. I just think I actually am more in line with what Mrs. Rose had mentioned as far as, you know, thinking about what our retreat was, and part of me really thought we were going to be more focused on our strategic plan, because I think that only allows us to hone in and focus and keep moving forward. And so, you know, I agree we want to find ways to work together, but I think that's a great starting point. What I'd rather invest time and money in is something of that nature, starting with our strategic plan, and then build around that. I think it's just money well spent, it's focus, it's time well spent, and I think in that it will continue to, you know, move us forward in a collegial, focused, respectful way, and laser focused on our strategic plan. So that I think that makes more sense and better use of time overall.
Mr. Asplin?
So what if this is an idea that we can ponder and hopefully everybody agree to is if I go ahead and get the modules that are involved with the plan and be able to put them on paper and hand them to you so that we all know what the modules are and what the purpose is behind each module, and then at that point also talk about the timing, like what you're saying, Bridget, is maybe if these modules do look like something that we would want to do together, then we look at the timing of that, whether that's after we create the strategic plan or during the time that we're creating that. I know that on Friday, I did enjoy Friday, sitting with all of you and listening to all of your thoughts and ideas and expectations. I thought it was fantastic. I hope we can, continue to do that again. And I agree. I think the strategic plan is definitely something that we all need to revolve around, and we're going to create that this spring. So if we have the strategic plan, we're all focusing on that, working together. And if I've never been through master board training. I just have heard about it from other board members, even in other districts. They participate, they like it, they enjoy it. It has helped them as boards. But I can certainly get the modules so that we understand exactly what it is and talk through it and see if it is something that we want to do.
And again, the master board training is working, how we can work better together and what our focus is. They were talking about staying in your lanes, a little bit of that on Friday, because sometimes boards want to run the district or micromanage the district, and that's not the role of a school board member. A school board member oversees the superintendent, and the superintendent runs the schools, and part of that, is in that, and it helps school board members better understand and do those things that they need to do, such as the budgeting and some of the other things. It gives them more training in those areas. Again, it doesn't help unless all of us are in it, and I think it makes it better, but I would appreciate you getting those other things in there, and I would appreciate if other members, I don't know, did everybody get this thing when they passed this out? Was it with our...
I can't see what you're holding.
It's the master board training. It got sent to us.
No, I didn't get it.
A couple of... It was dated 1/26/21. Unless I thought it came in my mail one day, but we'll look, but it's the Master Board program from the FSBA, and I think anyone can sign on to the Florida School Boards Association website. Yeah, you can't. You can't. Okay, so we'll click on that and get this to all of you. And that completes the agenda except for member comments. Members, this is our time to talk. We talked last week about how great it was that we could talk about things we want to do in the future or where we'd like to see us going. Maybe when we can get back around in that circle, we can feel more comfortable doing that. And at this time, I guess we will adjourn the meeting, and I believe we will have a reception for Mr. Art Howder, who is retiring as our school board attorney, but you'll be at the meeting tonight, correct? All right, can we have your retirement party before the meeting rather than after? Absolutely. Okay, so with that, we stand adjourned, and we will come back here at 6 p.m. for our regular scheduled board meeting.